got African American or Latino men here in New York who, instead of going to jail or going to college, those are going to be taxpayers. They're going to help build our communities. They will make our communities safer. They aren't part of the problem. They're potentially part of the solution if we treat them as such.
As President Obama visited Lehman University, Lehman College, I should say, in the Bronx yesterday, launching his My Brother's Keeper Alliance. The president, he wants to keep young men of color, help them because he says they often don't have the same opportunities as everybody else. Of course, this is not happening in a vacuum. Race relations even tenser in the wake of riots in Baltimore following the death of a black man while in police custody. In fact, a brand new CBS New York Times poll shows 61% of people call race relations bad in this country. It is the highest number it's been in 23 years. Now, when it comes to race, the president, at least I believe, is in a no-win situation. Many African Americans say he's not doing enough for their community. And many on the right say he's playing the race card whenever he even brings up the subject. Dominic, we've talked a lot about it on this show, that we're going to know how the president really thinks once he leaves office after a second term. But if you had to categorize 6 years into his office, from the Hope campaign, the speech he delivered on race at a turning point in the campaign after Reverend Wright, the speech he delivered in Philadelphia, would you have expected he would have said or done more than he's done to this point or not?
Well, let's keep in mind there is the Congress as well. So he can't just wave a magic wand.
No, I'm not saying that he would have changed race relations in this country.
No, I'm talking about what his actions.
But in terms of what he would have said, he has the bully pulpit of the presidency. Right. He's chosen at certain times, whether it be the beer summit after what happened in Cambridge.
But Richard, he's not the president of black people. He's the president of America. And so let's take his race out of it for a second. We would expect every American president to represent the constituencies of all Americans. So, see, here's the truth, Richard. The problem in the black community is so bad that God himself maybe couldn't fix it. That's how bad it is. We all talk around the problem.
I don't know if I'm going there, Dominic.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Okay.
But that's how bad. Right. Richard, you had to see in Baltimore this weekend. And remember, I'm from the hood, from the projects, grew up on welfare. I have never seen anything like that in my life in Baltimore. The hopelessness. It made Harlem look like Beverly Hills.
But I think the president, Dominic, has tiptoed on this subject for lots of reasons.
Well, he had to, number one.
Well, I think he has from the very beginning, because he didn't want to overemphasize his color and to alienate who he needed to come around. I think he tiptoed as a matter of just character. And yet he's going now back to what he was, which was an organizer in a sense.
Because he's at the final part of his term.
That's right. He doesn't care what the rest of them.
Right. He can finally be honest now.
Well, circumstances have forced his hand in this regard, too. There are too many headlines. There are too many stories where race has become too much of an issue. So I think he has to address it. Otherwise, you're going to see more riots in more cities.
And this may be a natural area of comfort for the president. And when he leaves the presidency, race may be somewhere that he wants to play a major role. And I think that's all great.
You've counseled a lot of campaigns and electeds. And so, when the Trayvon Martin situation happened, if we remember, he didn't have to, but he chose to go there a little bit and said he could have been my son. My point is, that's kind of been the MO of this, where he'll dip a toe in, and then he'll back out. That stupid beer summit after what happened in Cambridge, okay? My point is, either like you're Dominic, you don't tread on race here because you're America's president, or you bring a unique life experience that no other occupant of the White House could ever imagine, and you've lived that life. I thought what he did on that speech in Philadelphia on race after the Reverend Wright thing, I always judge things when I walk out of my office, forget the newsroom, and I walk into, in administrative offices, because they don't care about the news, right, a lot of times, right? They were riveted to that speech. And he talked about the perspective of what his grandmother was like here, and his mother being a white woman, and how they had different things even if they were in the same family in the same blood.
It's very compelling.
And my point is, I'm not waving a magic wand in the fairy dust that America's race problems would have gone over by anyone who's president. But I think, and I know I've heard a lot of people in black communities say this, they expected more.
I'm sure they did. And they should be disappointed in that, But on the other hand, as Dominic said, he doesn't represent just black people. And again, as he moves towards the end, when things don't matter as much of his tenure as president, and when he moves into the aftermath of his presidency, and this is where his area of comfort's going to be, I think it's a great thing. And if that's where it is, and people then want to go back and say, you see, he only cared about the black people, he didn't care. The conservatives may say things, oh, he didn't really care about the white people or businesses or creating jobs or creating this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
he
Fred,
will get...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I mean he will be in an area of comfort.
But he's so
and that's
tiptoed
good.
on this subject
Yeah.
and his whole, and you know what? To his detriment, because when it was time to support the police, he didn't do it, and so then he was accused of being anti-police. He didn't.
How did he not support the police?
He made comments about. He made no comments when a police officer was shot. He's never come out, except recently, and all sorts of pundits criticized him for not coming out as a law enforcement, saying you
Yeah,
should
but
do
he got
more.
hit on, with all due respect, he got hit on both sides. And that's part of what everyone's talking about here, is that he is trying to walk down a very narrow path down the middle.
Richard.
And it may be against his better instincts. Maybe he wants to side with the people who have had it tougher and how the police may be overreacting in certain circumstances. That may be his perspective.
The first black of anything in an elective office, it's such a fine line. Anyone that thinks the first black president of the United States was going to be a full black man, you don't understand politics. Look at the mayor of New York, the first black mayor, David Dinkins. Same issues. Blacks wanted the problems to go away overnight. I call it the magic wand. It's been called by others the magic wand syndrome. They think that you're going to come in as the first black. Look at what happened in Seattle, and that was a predominantly white city. But wave the magic wand, and all the problems are going to go away. Same thing happened with Nelson Mandela. Same thing with Nelson Mandela. They expected the first black president, that is the base, to come in, wave the magic wand, problems go away. It's unrealistic.
My only thing is, I think sometimes we live in a day and age where everybody likes to talk and everybody sometimes talks to themselves. But there was a chance to have dialogue in this country on different things. He chose
can I
not
be
to
honest
have
with
it.
you?
I'm not
White
saying
people would go crazy if Obama.
Can I tell you something?
White
Let me
people
speak
would,
for white
they
America,
would
Tom.
be, they
You
would
do
be
the
an
black thing.
impeachment movement if Obama
if
came
he
up
went-
and really spoke as a
Can I
black
ask you
man.
something? He has been very sober on this issue. You talk to people who watch Fox News or are on Fox News, he might as well be a militant, okay? So he was damned if he did or damned if he didn't. Might as well do it, okay? I'm not saying,
No, but the guys on the
wear
fence-
a black,
Richard, the people on
glove
the
here,
fence
but
would have jumped to Fox News.
Right,
They would have
right,
if he went any more black, for lack of a
well, I'm
better
glad
term.
we reached
this would be a
consensus on this
problem.
subject here. All right. Let me get to the more uplifting story, which is Albany. When we come back, we'll have new information when it comes to the Dean Skelos corruption case and what money can actually buy you in Albany. The deeper you dig, the murkier the swamp gets.